Hello, my darlings. This is Amish Patel, CEO of the Amish Patel Comedy Corporation. Lots to talk about today, guys. Very controversial episode today. I think I'm just gonna dedicate an entire episode. I was gonna do Gavin McInnes, but he's too much. And so I think I'm just gonna go with Jordan P.D. Pops Peterson. And he's a very controversial figure. Very incites a lot of antagonism. But also, I think he's very antagonistic, but he's antagonistic in a way that I think is passive-aggressive. And we're going to talk about that. And look, I'm going to say the good stuff, but I'm also going to say the bad stuff. Okay? And I can already hear the Jordan Peterheads going crazy right now. I can already hear these Peterheads going crazy right now, doing the down vote on the thumbs and just putting comments in and calling me a white knight and calling me a cuck and calling me all this. Dude, I can't believe how much the Peterson fans are so brainwashed that if you disagree with one little thing, they get so mad. They get so goddamn triggered. And there's such a bunch of like, you know what the worst is? And then you know what they accuse you of? And I've heard Peterson do this too, where if anyone disagrees with him, he accuses them of like, oh, you're just trying to get up in an pussy, brother. Because here's the thing with Peterson is like he's basically kind of like a men's motivational speaker. And a little bit of a men's help kind of guy, right? And maybe a little bit of a men's men's rights kind of a guy. A little bit of that. You know, there's a little bit of that peppered in. And the people that are mad at him mostly are feminists. And look, if you can't even agree on that, well then fuck off, dude. I don't know what to tell you, man. You can't, like, even if you do a search of him on YouTube, it's like there's more videos than what he's put out. He's put out a ton of videos, but there's more videos of his fans saying, Peterson owned a feminist, destroys feminists, racked. Feminists can't even walk because Peterson did her butt with logic. You know what I'm saying? So if you got that many, like, oh man, this is my favorite thumbnail is Jordan Peterson quietly destroys the matriarchy or something like that. And it's just him, but in the John Wick photo. Okay, let's put that in here. I got to make a note of that. That's such a banger thumbnail. We got to put that in. Jordan Peterson versus the matriarchy. Oh my God, it's so funny, dude. It's just him and a circle of guns pointed at him. And the guns are supposed to represent the matriarchy. Idiots, you guys have the guns. You right-wing maniacs. What matriarchy people have guns? They're anti-gun. Doesn't even make sense, dude. His fans are obsessed with him. But anyway, we're going to talk about that today. Very controversial figure, very interesting figure, and very important for the culture, very important for the community. If you don't know who he is, we're going to nerd out a bit today. We're going to nerd out. If you don't know who he is, you're probably like, who cares? No, you should care because, listen, this guy has a huge influence on the culture and on the community. And as far as dudes go, most dudes are into it. A lot of dudes are into it. Even if they're low-key pretending not to be into it, it's kind of like crystal healing. Where I'll be like, hey, you into crystals? People are like, no, in public. And then after, they'll just be like, I got my crystals. I have 2 crystals. I get my crystal healing crystals here. And they have them. PD Pop, same thing. A lot of these dudes will pretend they're not into it. Then their bag will open, 12 rules for life in the bag. You know what I'm saying? Some people are just open about liking him. But he is a controversial figure. He is a controversial figure. And that's what we're going to talk about, babies. My darlings. My dinkus. But first, guys, make sure, this is incredibly important work that I'm doing here at the Amish Patel Comedy Corporation. If you like what you're watching, head over to laughsarup.com. Make sure you sign up for the mailing list so that you know when laughs are going up in the culture, in the community. You'll get notifications about live shows. You'll know when the full podcasts are coming up. And then you'll know when the bits go up. Because I'm putting up bits. It looks like I'm going to be able to put up bits every day, dude. Daily fucking bits. Who's working as hard as me? This is a goddamn corporation right here. We're working hard and we're going to take the game. That's it. There's no other way out of this life. I gotta come up in the game. And if you like what I'm doing, I need your help to do that. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you join the mailing list. There's a lot of great investment opportunities if you want to become an investor. But if you want to just be like, if you want to just help out, send the videos out to people. You know what I'm saying? Send it out to someone who has like a social media following. Send it to them. Influencers. Get it to the influencers because it's very, very important work what I'm doing. We got to bring the heat for the left-wing team, guys. We got to bring it back for the lefties, dude, because these right-wing maniacs, they took the game, dude. They took the whole internet. Are you kidding me? And the lefties are pretending like they don't even know what this is. Dude, he is this PD Pops. I mean, it is. Some people are calling him just like a flash in the pan, like pop psychologist. But he came up hard, dude. He came up hard in the game. And I think it's important to talk about him just because he has the ears of so many dudes. And here's the thing. Like I said, we're gonna call it even here, guys. This is Amish Patel Comedy Corporation, professional. I'm gonna call it even here. I'm not gonna sit here and just bash him. I'm gonna say what the good stuff is, and I'm also gonna say what the bad stuff is. You know what I'm saying? And if you can't handle that, then stop being a little bitch, dude. If you're a Jordan Peterson fan, you're supposed to be the one that doesn't give a fuck, right? So just hear a point other than the million people that already agree with you, because I get it, dude. How many Peterson fans? There's entire This is how obsessed people are with this Jordan Peterson. There's other channels. They don't even know him, but there are other entire channels based on how great he is. Like, people have built YouTube channels. I think there's this one guy, Think Club, I found. I gotta find a thing on that Think Club, and his entire channel is dedicated to how great PD Pops is. You know what I'm saying? And even on this channel, even for me, I think out of the 6 episodes, I've probably mentioned him like 4 or 5 times. But it is important for the culture, and it's important for the community. So let's start with this. I'm going to tell you guys why I wanted to get into it, even because the motivationals are tight. You know what I'm saying? As a dude in 2019, in this economy, it's a tough economy, man. Coffee's not good enough. Sometimes you need a motivational. Sometimes you need to put on a PD Pops, dude. Look at some of these. Just look at some of these titles. You know why? How? It's very much like male-centric motivation. Like, get going, baby. You need to take the game, baby. And he really does believe in that. If you're a dude, he thinks you got to come up. He wants you to come up. And even this, me coming out criticizing him. He's a tenured professor. It's very offensive to me, you know? Because I know, because if you're brown, you do have a sense of like, I got to respect the professor. You know what I'm saying? I always found that so interesting. We're going to school in Canada versus going to school in India. In Canada, we were so like, yo, fuck the teachers, dude. Rock and roll, dude. We were like we were like, fuck the teachers. Who cares? But then when I went to school in India, dude, the teacher would come in. First day of class, the teachers would come in grade 9 and 10. I went to school in India. First day of class, they'd come in and they would be like, who's going to be my crown jewel? And these kids would all just be like, me, sir, me, please, me, but sir, please. Dude, in India, let's just say someone did something wrong. The teacher would go in front of the class and be like, who did this? Dude, 25 hands would, sir, please, I tell you, please, sir, please, sir, please. Dude, they ratted each other out. I couldn't believe it. And the teachers had a mentality of like, who's going to be my crown jewel? Who's going to be my little darling? Huh? You want to be my darling? Who's going to be my darling? And then it was a contest of who can get the hand up. Sir, please, sir, me, sir. Dude, they're ratting each other out. And that's why even when Jordan Peterson did his first big banger like publicity stunt, you know, and I think a lot of you guys are going to get offended of me calling this a publicity stunt, but basically the way he got big at first, this is in 2016, I think, he basically did this rally at U of T where he did like a pro-free speech rally, but it was kind of against this Bill C-16, which was basically a bill that says that transgendered people and non-gender binary people are protected under hate speech laws. So there's a bill, is called Bill C-16. Peterson, when that bill came out, such nerds, right? What a bunch of nerds even me too, for talking about this, for even knowing this. But Peterson at U of T, he did like a pro-free speech rally. And he was like, I'm doing a pro-free speech thing. And that's where his Patreon first blew up. And that's where he kind of went viral, I think, off of that a little bit. And the Patreon was like right away $80,000, $100,000, I think like $50,000 to $80,000 a month after that. Just from the like the aftermath of that, I think. From what I can remember, that was the first little big banger hit that he did. That was his coming in the game. You know what I'm saying? And he's out on the street and he's doing these speeches about like freedom of speech. This will destroy our freedom of speech. And he basically has this mentality that like, if you touch freedom of speech, it's a slippery slope, and then we're going to be in gulags. You're going communist, basically. You know, and that's one of the things we've got to talk about in a second. But what I was saying about being brown and feeling disrespectful, talking shit about him, what's interesting is that if you look at the footage of his first rally, it's all Indian kids. It's all these brown 20-year-old kids who don't fucking know anything. They're like first-year university students. Obviously, they're like engineering students. Here's the thing. You're Peterson, right? You're teaching psychology. There should be all white people in that rally. Like, I don't even know how brown people know who he is, because the brown people they're all in engineering class. But but if you look at the footage, all the people backing him up, it's all brown guys. Why? Because we're taught to you have to be a good boy. And if the teacher says, well, I'm doing who's going to help me on the free speech rally? Who's going to help me? I guarantee you a bunch of white kids were like, fuck you, dude. Fuck you, Peterson, dad. I'm going to be at the rally against you, Peterson, you fucking Peter Pops, dude. Fuck you, dude. We're coming out against you. I'm just spying on you, fucking Peter Pops. But all these Indian kids are like, oh, said it, please, said it, please, said I come, please. Dude, his rally, it's like, it's mostly brown. I feel like it's disproportionately brown. For a psychology class, he's a psychology professor. How do these brown people even know who he is? You know, and am I stereotyping? Am I being racist? Sure, yeah. But also, like, let's just look at reality here. These brown people are not taking psychology. I promise you. They're all engineering students. There's like basically they're engineering students, and 5 of them happen to get a psychology elective. And out of Peterson's class of 1,000 kids, 1,000 white kids, because it's psychology, and 5 Indian kids, all 5 of the Indian kids came. Are you kidding me, dude? It's because they're brainwashed. And I'm watching this. He's doing it's basically like an Peterson and his crew, and on the other side, it's all these trans and like lesbian activists. And I'm looking at these Indian kids like idiots. No one's gonna hire you. What are you doing at this stupid rally, you dumb fucks? Nobody's gonna hire you ever. Are you stupid? Let's include some footage of that. Dude, I mean, his psychology class is 95% white. And 94% of those people, or like 99% of those people, are basically like, fuck you, Peterson. I think you're sexist. I think you're a Nazi. Fuck you, dude. And they're probably not, they're against him probably. And there's literally 5 Indian kids in the class, and they're all at the stupid rally. Because, and I'm saying it just to say, even about myself, that like, I even am raised with this feeling of like, don't disrespect a professor. He's a tenured professor. We should respect him, and we should be nice. But then I was also thinking, because I watch his motivational videos, Peterson's, right? And sometimes I watch his motivational videos, and I've been thinking about doing this right-wing, left-wing politics. I think it's important, and I've been thinking about doing it for a while. And I think I was watching a Peterson video, and I started hearing Peterson's voice in my head, where Peterson was like, come on, son, get in the game. You have to fight back. You want to say something about me? Get on the internet and say it, son. Get in the game. You gotta fight back, even against me. Criticize. Bring the criticisms. Bring it. So that's what we're doing. Here's the thing, okay? This whole time, the laughs have been up, and we're talking about real political shit. And it's a little nerd and it's a little niche, but you know what? I like it. I'm going to keep it so far. This is great. Let's go into so let's talk about that a little bit, about what's the positive stuff. The positive stuff is, dude, the motivationals are bangers, dude. He's got some banger motivational videos. It is what it is. You know? It is what it is, right? And if I can sum up what his issue, if the thing that I disagree, if I can make a list of the things I disagree with, right? Because, again, motivationals are tight. And I think I said this in the last video. Look, he's basically like an immigrant dad for white guys. He's basically like an immigrant dad saying, hey, get married, have kids, be a good boy and get married and have kids and get a good education and work hard and whatever. But he's basically like an immigrant dad for white guys. And maybe white guys need that. It's hard, man. It's hard to stay motivated. It's hard to get off your ass, dude. In this economy, the economy's dead. And also, we've never needed less. You know what I mean? It is a time where you can kind of just chill out too. It's a weird time, right? Like this millennial new generation, we are going into a time where we might have to do universal basic income. Like there might just not be jobs for everyone. You know what I'm saying? And we're going into a time where if you're a dude, you can just jerk off and play video games. Honestly, like every motivational force in you is satisfied with porn and video games. It's done. Literally, the way our brains are wired, there's 2 great systems in place between pornography and video games. It's like, okay, that's everything I need to do as a human being. All of my motivation for life, Okay? Like as a dude, like the strongest pushing motivational force in my life as a dude, as a straight dude, as a cis dude, I guess, which is still like the majority of people. Like, sorry, but it is. So the strongest motivational force. Well, guess what? Is like trying to get laid or whatever. Porn is covering us. You know, this new porn, dude, that's out right now. It's got us, dude. We don't need to leave the house right now. You know, and so you're watching that porn and you're playing the video games, and then maybe you need that PD Pops video to jump in there and say, "Get it together, stupid! Hey, get in the game, son." Dude, I'm not gonna lie, man. I wouldn't have made this video if I didn't watch some of his motivational videos. I wouldn't have made this video if I didn't watch some of his motivational bangers, dude. He's got bangers. He is tight. He is tight, man. And I know a lot of people write him off. Like I saw one article that said he's the smart guy for dumb people. You know, and then people are just calling him a Nazi. And it's like, come on, man. We got to make better arguments than that. We're just going to call everyone a Nazi. And that let's go into the first point with that. Well, here's the thing. We got the Nazi communist stuff, and I'm going to call that war propaganda, and maybe that'll be chapter 2. But first, let's start with his men's stuff. Because there's a lot to unpack there with the men, with him being this men's motivational speaker. Yeah, let's stick to the men's motivational stuff. Because here's the thing, okay. Like I said, banger motivationals, dude. Banger motivationals. Okay, you wake up better than a coffee, maybe. You know, I wouldn't be making this video if it wasn't for some of his motivationals. But here's the thing, he basically thinks if you're a man, he thinks you can rise up and fight back and take on this world. You can take it, and this is an old idea from Ralph Waldo Emerson, and this is maybe it's a Transcendentalism, I think it's called, or it's basically Protestant. It's very Hindu, it's very Protestant, but it's basically, you know, Ralph Waldo Emerson, who's like an American philosopher, a Transcendentalist philosopher, I think they call it. But he was a priest, and he got kicked out of his church because when he did his graduating speech, I think, he basically did a speech saying that Jesus, the Lord, and I don't want to offend anyone when I say this, but basically Ralph Waldo Emerson said about Jesus Christ the Lord that Jesus is a metaphor for us when we are at our best. What he meant by at our best is that when you are here on this earth, if you're a man and you're here on this earth and you're doing what the Lord put you here to do, you are lost in the work. You are lost in the joy, because the joy is in the work. We talked about this last time. The joy is in the work. So when you are lost in the joy of the work that the Lord, that Almighty God put in you to do, when you're lost in that work and when you're growing and you're getting better and you're engaging, in those moments, you are the Lord himself. And Ralph Waldo Emerson got kicked out of his church for saying basically that. Basically, he was saying that when you are in that flow state of doing the thing that you're here to do, the thing that you love, like when the sunflower is looking up at the sun and tracking the sun, that's Jesus. That's the Lord in you. That's the Lord. We got it in here, baby. That's what he was basically saying, if I can paraphrase. And I'm not a philosopher, but that's basically what he was saying, man, from what I can remember. And correct me if I'm wrong and tell me if I got it a little off, but that's basically what Ralph Waldo Emerson was saying, and that's why he got kicked out of his church, and he made this kind of school of thought, or he was part of the school of thought called Transcendentalism. But basically what they were saying is, the Lord, when you are doing what you love, you are the Lord, you know? And it seems like that is in line with this American Protestant kind of capitalist-ish mentality that Peterson is selling, and he'll get you jacked up on it, dude. Like, he sells it good. So if you're a dude, and a lot of people who criticize him, I think it's a lot of women saying, like, this is bullshit, it's pop psychology, like, who's listening to this shit? This guy's a loser. And the reason why I think women think he's a loser is because if you're a dude, Peterson, he thinks that if you're here doing what the work that the Lord put you here to do, if you are out there in the game, engaging with life, taking it, baby, taking it, working hard, hustling, when you're doing that, you are walking like the Lord. And if you're a man, you have that opportunity to be like the Lord. That's basically what Peterson's teaching. If you're a dude, you can be Jesus. But if you're a woman, you should just go home and have kids. That's what he thinks. Let's take a break right there and just let that sink in, dude. My darlings, let that sink in. Basically, and really ask yourself here. Really ask yourself here. When you watch some of his full stuff, basically his mentality is, if you're a dude, you can take it, baby. But if you're a woman, your version of taking it is just make the kid. That's what you're here to do. You know? And I'm not saying that he hates women. You could say, he would argue that he loves women, but he loves women in a daddy knows best kind of a way. Daddy knows best. And if you do what daddy tells you, then you're going to end up in a good spot. But if you run around like a fucking hoe, if you run around hoeing it up, or if you think you're some kind of a trans or a lesbian, well, then you're not doing what the Lord put you here to do. And then Daddy Pops doesn't love you anymore. And that's kind of the mentality there. You know what I'm saying? Now, a lot of you might think, and if you disagree with that, then I don't think you're watching the same guy, dude. Honestly, come on. You're brainwashed. Like what are you watching? If you didn't get that out of PD Pop, you either are not watching a full hour-long video, or you're just or you agree with him and you're like, yeah, that's what women are here to do. Okay, but if you agree with him, then just don't get mad at me. That's what he says. That's what he thinks. I'm pretty sure I just got an A+ in Petersonism. That's what he thinks. He thinks if you're a dude, you can come up and rise up and take the game, baby. But if you're a woman, go home and have kids. And he's basically doing research, and he got grants from the Canadian government for like 9 years to do this research, basically, to go find the studies that are like, no, women are actually, well, it turns out women are less happy now that they're free. They're actually less happy. Like, he's putting together the research to prove his point. And that's the problem with religious scientists, man, is there's a fundamental flaw in how they're doing their work and how they're doing their research. He has a belief in something, and he's looking for whatever evidence he needs to prove what he wants to prove. And he's good at it. He's 20, 30 years in the game. He knows how to debate. He knows how to talk. He kills it. I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't kill it, dude. He knows how to fight. He knows how to play the game, baby. But don't forget that he is fighting. When all these dudes put up these videos that are like, Peterson owned a feminist, Peterson destroyed a feminist, Peterson versus matriarchy, like, sure, in a lot of those clips, like, he is killing it. But you got to understand, he's 30 years in the game debating with people. Half the time, he's arguing with either a 20-year-old who doesn't know shit yet, or he's arguing with some kind of a daytime talk show host who's not even into politics. So, okay, fine. He knows how to play the game. He knows how to debate. He's tight. He even talks about debating like it's a weapon. You know what I'm saying? And if you think about it, that's a little bit disingenuous, because what we should be doing is we should be trying to come together on some shit. But if you come into every debate thinking, I'm just going to prove my point, and I'm going to spend all my time finding the evidence to prove whatever I want to believe, then really, it's just not good science, man. Good science is supposed to be like nothing going in, no preconceived things going in, and like whatever the data tells you, the data tells you. But I find it, and I've heard Ben Shapiro even say this. Ben Shapiro's like another one of these kind of guys, these like religious, right-wing, the Western culture is better than everyone else kind of guys. Huge following online, by the way, because I feel like some of you guys are not like as nerd as us, as me, and the people who are into this discussion. But I feel like some people aren't so nerd, and you're just like, oh, why are you talking about these losers? Listen, yeah, they're nerds, but they came up in the game. They have huge followings. We need to talk about it. We got to talk about the issues, people. You know, a big part of why Trump got elected, I would say, is because of these right-wing maniacs on the internet. The huge following. And while the lefties, and again, this goes back to getting in the game. These right-wing people love playing the game. They really have like a joys in the work kind of mentality. So they wake up in the morning and they have a strong belief, and they're like, I'm going to make a video about that. And the lefties are kind of like, oh, I want to make art. And I don't want to even talk to that guy. He's racist. It's like, dude, guys, we got to engage. I feel like because we lefties haven't engaged in a real way, I feel like these right-wing maniacs go further and further down that path. You know what I'm saying? And now people are talking about the Pewdie pipeline, where they're talking about how even the guy, the Christchurch shooter, he was like watching PewDiePie, and then he does the symbol, this white power symbol, which is like, it started as a joke, but then he murdered a bunch of people, and he did it, so it's real, but is he joking, or is he real? I don't know. And I don't want to say like lefties are, it's not your fault, but it is a little bit like this attitude of like, don't even talk about that, it's not important. People say politics is downstream from culture, but so is something like this. You know, there is some truth. I'm not saying there's a PewDiePie pipeline, and if you're into PewDiePie, you're Nazi. I'm not about that, man. I really don't like this attitude right now where people are so polarized that that people are even calling Peterson a Nazi. It's like, relax. Not a Nazi. Let's be real about it so that we can actually have this debate and it's not some bullshit. So anyway, that's the first issue. That's the first main issue, is that he does kind of think women are below men. I mean, he does. Like, that's, I don't know. If you don't agree with that, or maybe you're looking at it the wrong way. Like, maybe you're looking at it like, no, they're not below men. They're above men. That's why we have to control and protect them. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you're twisting it like that, and I think he's twisting it like that in his head too. Where he's like, no, women, no, they're not. They can make children. That's so beautiful that we can't give them the freedom to screw that up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's it is kind of twisted in their own head to be like, no, we don't want to give them freedom because we love them. You know? It's very colonialism, you know? It is pretty colonialism. It's not slavery, but it's kind of like, in the sense that like I was watching a thing about how women still do like 70% of the work at home and 70% of raising the kid, or maybe it's 60%, 60 to 70% of the work at home, and 60% to 70% of raising the kid, 100% of making the kid, and now they're even making more money, right? So it's like, I don't know. I guess it's one of those things where you go like, I mean, okay. Yeah, this is the point that I was trying to make, is that it's like 60, 70% of housework. Maybe I think they're at like 50% of the money. They might be higher in a lot of situations, but maybe the money's a little bit lower. It's like the money's getting better, it's getting equal. But then even though the money's getting equal, I mean, I know a lot of guys where the women make more. I've only dated girls that make more. I'm a comic. That's kind of one of my rules in life. Because if a girl's making less money than me, I'm kind of like, okay, what are you doing with your life? And if they're not a comic, I'm a little bit like, well, are you stupid? Like, what are you doing with your life? So, you know, and that's an issue. That's an issue of me being too judgmental, and that's rude to say because, listen, man, some people, they're not here to make money. You know what I'm saying? We got to chill out, right? Whatever, right? But the point is that they're making like half the money now. 60% to 70% of the housework not paid for. 60 to 70% of raising the kid not paid for. 100% of making the kid also not paid for. It's not slavery, but it is kind of like colonialism. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're taking a cut. We're taking a hard cut, and the justification for taking the cut is because we are the Lord. Like, we're so much better, and then the special thing that you do is you make the kid. And we're not going to give you money for making the kid, but don't worry, we'll take care of you. Like, that's kind of what happens, you know what I mean? Even like Tucker Carlson, like a lot of these right-wing pundits, it's like their whole attitude towards women is like, well, I married one. That's my job. It's like, women's rights? No, I married one. Equal pay? No, I give her money. I have to give my wife money. That's it. Why do we got to pay them more? You know what I mean? But he really is fighting against that stuff. A lot of the stuff that's trying to make it more equal. He's doing all the research and the justification to be like, no, we're not equal. Men are better. That's what he thinks. Okay. That's what he basically thinks, that like if you're a woman and you like everything that makes you special is making that. So think about, like, let's just say we're equal, right? But then you guys, women can make a kid. So that puts you up here, right? What these guys think is that even though you could make a kid, we kill it at work so much better than you that we still deserve culturally as a whole. You still just got to give men more shit. Because that's the way the society is structured, and that's the way the Lord meant it, and that's, without that, it'll create a decay in the culture. And then we'll be communist. It's like that kind of, you know what I mean? You know, like conservative. He's a conservative. It's so weird when he denies that he's a conservative, because it's like, dude, you're a conservative. Why are we pretending like you're not such a conservative? He gets mad when people call him conservative. It's like, dude, you can't say, how dare you call me conservative, but then every single issue you end up on the conservative side. He's basically saying, like, don't, how dare you call me a conservative? When I logically think about every situation, I end up on the conservative side. But that doesn't make me how dare you? Dude, you're conservative. And listen, man, I know a lot of people, dude, this is the other thing with the Peterson fans, is that if you come out against him, a lot of his fans are like, oh, you're just trying to get up in an pussy, brother. You're just trying to get up in an pussy, brother. Huh? You're just trying to holler down, brother? You're dissing Peterson. You're going to put out a Peterson diss video, and then you're going to try to get up and holler down, brother. And here's the thing, dude. And Peter, he said this himself, too. Where basically, if someone doesn't agree with him, he's like, if a dude doesn't agree with him, he's basically like, oh, you're just trying to get pussy. You're just trying to get up in an pussy, dude. That's all that is. They're just trying to have sex with girls. There's something fishy about it. Every time he's done Joe Rogan like 6 times, and 3 of the times or 2 of the times at least, he opens with Joe Rogan and be like, man, you're killing it. You're like a comic touring and your tour is sold out. But he is almost like a comic touring, but he's doing like this. It's weird. It's like universities, comics aren't allowed to go because it's too offensive. But then Peterson's selling out, dude. He's killing it at the universities. And I remember one of my buddies is a comic, and he started doing these pro-Peterson, like, right-wing jokes. And I'm like, what do you want to do? You want to do comedy, or do you want to be on the college campus tour? Idiot. Stop this, you maniac. But a lot of times when you go against him, a lot of his fans are like, oh, you're just trying to get up in an pussy, brother. And here's what I'll say to that. I can disagree with you and still be trying to get up in an pussy, brother. I can disagree with you and still trying to get up in an pussy. It's not one or the other. Don't make it one or the other. We're having a debate here. We're having a discussion. I'm bringing my points. Bring your fucking points, bitch. Bring your goddamn points. Don't just do this. Write me off as like someone trying to get up in an app. Listen, if anyone isn't getting up in an app, it's you losers. You fucking nerds. I mean, I know there's a lot of guys that are into Peterson that are cool guys that get laid, whatever. But a lot of it, and he says this himself, a lot of his fans are basically incels that he's saving from going full incel. It's a lot of guys that, dude, because they're mad because nobody wants to fuck them. And then Peterson's like, no, I have the way. And he has so many videos about that. His motivational videos aren't just about doing work. I'd say 20% are about, like, do the work, and then when you rise in the hierarchy, then women will find you attractive. And it's like, dude, no. You know, and that's another thing that's almost like another video, dude. But here's the thing, man. And I've talked about this before. There's a market of 10s who love 6s, okay? But even besides that, you know, there's a lot of people saying that men are fucked right now and, like, it's hard to be a man. But if you look at it from the right angle, it's actually never been easier to be a dude. Because here's the thing with being a dude. Up until now, you had to do whatever you're doing. You had to make money. You had to make all the money. Like, up until the 70s, maybe. You had to make, as a dude, that's a lot of prash, dude. That's a lot of prash, dude. But now, if you're not a loser, Peterson fan, no, not that everyone, not everyone, but I'm talking about the ones that are watching him because they can't get pussy. But if you're not one of these guys, you don't need to make any money, dude. Stop telling people that you have to make money to get laid. It's almost the opposite, dude. People who get laid the most. Have you ever seen Elon Musk? He got married and then divorced and then remarried the same girl. And when you watch interviews with him and that girl, the girl is like, you're a loser. Like, she's like a model who doesn't even care about him. And I've seen Elon Musk in interviews where he's like, it's nice to save the world, but I'm very lonely. It's good. I'm saving, I'm saving the world, but nobody wants to be my girlfriend. Dude. Married, divorced, and then married to the same girl? Dude. Yeah, how's that for the top of the fucking hierarchy? There's top of the hierarchy right there. You fucking lobster heads. You Peterson head lobster heads. What do you think, dude? You know who gets pussy? I hate to break it to you, my brothers. You know who gets I want to say pussy, brothers? Drug dealers, club promoters. Degenerates. Are you kidding me? What do you think? How are you gonna feel when you make all this money and then still nobody wants to fuck you? Then it's vans on sidewalks. Vans on side. I'm telling you, man, dude, you don't need to make money. And I've talked about this before. There's a whole market of 10s who love 6s, number one. But also, forget it even if you're a 6. People are romantics. Especially these ladies, dude. They love us. I know it's a controversial thing to say in 2019, but they love this dick, brother. They love it. I mean, if they're cis and they're straight, if they're cis and they're straight, there's nothing they want more to get up on that dick, brother. And if they're getting it good from someone, what's $20,000? What's $30,000 when you're in love, brother? You don't need to make money. You just have to be in the same class. Like, as long as you can roll with them without being like, well, I can't afford to do that, and I can't afford to do that. If you can roll with them, they will fall in love. And once they're in love, what's 20,000? What's 30,000? You know, Petey Pops, he's out there teaching that men have to make. This is what I mean. This mentality of like men have to be the top person. It's actually shittier. Because think about it like this. Let's just say we go too far right wing, we end up with a police state. But if you go too far left wing, you end up with a nanny state. Well, listen, and I don't want either of those extremes. I don't want communism, and I don't want Nazis. But I'm saying, if you go too far right wing, you end up with a police state. If you go too far left wing, you end up with nanny state. You know what? I'd rather have a nanny than a cop. I'd rather have a nanny than a cop. That's all I'm saying. You want nannies in charge? You want cops in charge? I'm gonna go with the nannies. Sorry. I mean, I'm raised by 3 girls too, so maybe I'm biased on that. But you know, I mean, yeah, dude, my household was run by my mom. Yeah, my mom ran shit, and my sisters too. And there's a lot of. Here's the thing that probably Peterson doesn't straight up say, but I know a lot of dudes who are into Peterson. Oh no, Peterson does say this, but they're in the more hour-long things. But even my buddies who are into him, they actually think that women are not competent. Like, they actually think that if you go in the workforce, they're not capable of real work. They think that. And I'm just like, no, dude. And then they're like, oh, you're just trying to get up in an ass. And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Have you had a job? There's kind of like, what is there left to do? I mean, labor. Okay, here's the thing. If you don't get into sports, okay, let's take off sports, not including sports, because there's a lottery chance of becoming a football player or whatever. So not including sports, right? Basically, the entire workforce now, it's all of them. There's no money in labor. There's no money in physical labor. Okay, so take that off. So the only things left to do are all analytical, computery work. And you really think that men are just better? I don't know, man. There's a lot of dumb dudes. But people think that. And I feel like people think that more when they watch Petey Pops. Because that's kind of what he believes, because he's bringing it for the men's team. He is bringing it for the men's team. Listen, if you don't agree with that, I feel like you're just not even watching the same guy. I don't even know what to tell you. I don't even know what to tell you. And I'll say this one last thing. He is passive-aggressive as fuck, though, too, right? And this goes back to knowing how to argue well. He knows how to debate, man. And he's passive-aggressive. Because I remember years ago, Petey Pops has an interesting come-up. He's been trying to come up in the game as an intellectual, as a speaker, for like 30, 40 years, too. Like, he just got famous 5 years ago, like in his 50s or whatever. But he's been trying since his 30s. And you can go back and watch some of his early bits. And, dude, his early bits, like, basically, he used to be able to get on Steve Paikin anytime he wanted. I'm talking about The Agenda on TVO. TV Ontario, incredible channel. A bastion of left-wing, liberal, progressive thoughts, TV Ontario. But as, like, a counterpoint, whenever Peterson wanted to make a point, they just gave him... Dude, he has these video essays on TVO. So let's just say a feminist... let's just say someone on the New York Times wrote an article saying, you know, people are getting married less and maybe that's okay. Or like women need to make more money, or like whatever, right? Or women are choosing to not get married but still have kids, or something like that doesn't jive with Petey Pops. So let's just say some feminist writes this article in New York, right? Peterson, and this is going back to the 2000s, Peterson will read the article and he'll be so upset, he'll pick up the phone and be like, get Steve Paikin, I'd like to do a rebuttal. And he'll do a clapback, dude. He's been doing these feminist clapbacks for 30, 40 years, man. It's passive-aggressive. It's subtle. It's passive-aggressive. But he's been doing these clapbacks 20, 30 years. And here's what I mean by passive aggressive. I remember he was on Steve Pakin's show. He's doing this video essay to diss this female writer from the New York Times. This feminist writer this feminist who like wrote an article for the New York Times, and he's doing this clapback, like this diss video. And in the diss video, he mentions Simone de Beauvoir. All right. But here's how he mentions her, and I'll try to put the clip in here. He mentions Simone de Beauvoir, but instead of saying philosopher, writer, what a best-selling author, whatever the title would be, he mentions Simone de Beauvoir as, he said, this is how he says it. He's like, Simone de Beauvoir, wife of Jean-Paul Sartre, once famously said this. So here, so let's unpack that for a second. Okay. That's basically a terrorist attack. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, look, man, I started the podcast saying this. As a dude, he really is our 5-star general. You know, during the day, he's our 5-star general. He's saying, guys, get in line, take it on, take the world. We can take it. Let's go, baby, go. But then at night, he's going up. It's almost like he's doing these terrorist attacks on the women. So he says this, Simone de Beauvoir, wife of Jean-Paul Sartre, and he's saying this to diss her too. I mean, dude, if you're a writer, like he's making it sound like Simone de Beauvoir was some kind of diversity hire in the philosophy game, and I really thought that, and I even looked it up after he said it, and I looked it up. Listen, man, Simone de Beauvoir brought the heat, bitch. You got a recognized game on that. And probably I shouldn't have said bitch when I'm talking about a feminist. But listen, this is where we're at, okay? I can't go back and edit these. Honestly, guys, look. But game recognized game, dude. She brought the heat. I'm watching this. Dude, I actually started reading her site. I was like, it's good. I'm not really a reader, but she's tight, dude. You can't sit here and pretend like she's some kind of diversity hire. And he didn't even say all that. All he said... Well, and I'll play the clip. But you got to understand that is that's a shot, dude. That's a terrorist attack. I mean, we're talking, he went into the left wing, the bastion of liberalism. Even as the professor of U of T, it's almost like he's pretending to be liberal, gets his tenureship, and then he says, ha, it was me all along, Professor Conservative. And now he comes out with all this shit after he's tenured. Come on, dude. He's playing the game, dude. He's playing the game. And he's got an agenda. And it is a hard right-wing agenda. He even put out recently, he talks about all this freedom of speech shit, but recently he put out a thing saying like, if you're at a university and you think there are professors who have a Marxist-Leninist agenda, let me know and I'll make a registry. He wanted to make a registry? Like, you got to admit, man, if you're one of these guys who's all about freedom of speech and like open dialogue and say whatever you really think, whatever, he wanted to make a registry of Marxist-Leninist thinker professors. First of all, fucking nerd. Who made you the goddamn hall monitor? This guy thinks he's some kind of cultural hall monitor? This guy thinks this guy just thinks, excuse me, that's Marxism. I put you on a list. Dude, he wants to make a list. I mean, he didn't end up making it. I think because of the backlash from his own people being like, dude, you're being a hypocrite, man. You're all about freedom of speech and all this shit. So he didn't end up actually making it. But it is still such a fucking loser thing to do. What a nerd, dude. What a nerd thing to be, the Marxist-Leninist. And this whole attitude, and that's the next thing we got to get into, actually. That's the next thing. I'm going to try to keep this next part quick. And then I'm going to call it, man, because we're at 50 minutes. Man, I can spit, though, right? We're talking about real shit, real politics, real cultural issues facing the community. And honestly, the laughs are up. The laughs are up. Sorry, guys. But it is what it is, And if you don't think the laughs are up, then maybe the show's not for you. But if you do think the laughs are up, then make sure you go to laughsarup.com. Become an investor. And I don't just mean with your money. I mean with your time and with your, Anyway, this is the other thing I want to talk about. Because I do find it too much when people call him a Nazi. And I'm like, dude, be reasonable, okay? One of my friends who I do, who also does these left-wing YouTube videos, Black Code 666. We just shot a great collab at Ryerson University. Can't wait till that comes out. Good dude, great guy. Super lefty, by the way. Super lefty. And he was telling another lefty YouTuber, I feel like they're not going to care, but I think he was talking about Thought Slime maybe. And he was saying to Thought Slime, like, yeah, Peterson, I don't agree with him. I don't think he's a Nazi. And Thought Slime was like, I do. Dude. The left wing hitters are so extreme right now. You got Thought Slime. I mean, and dude, the videos are tight. Like, I don't want to say, no, like, they are good. You know, they do so much research, and all their videos are like 20, 30 minutes. But like, not like this conversational 20, 30 minutes. Like, they do like a 20, 30 minute video. Like, they're doing like Daily Show essays, but for communists. Like, Thought Slime has a video called "All Cops Are Bad," and it's researched and it's well thought out. I don't agree with it, but whatever. And then there's a lot of people like him who are like, Jordan Peterson, yeah, he's a Nazi. Oh, Nazi, dude. What are we gonna call someone when they're actually a Nazi? You know, there's actual Nazis still, because you know that's the thing with calling everyone a Nazi. It's almost like there's like Nazis, then there's neo-Nazis, and then there's literally a Nazi. And literally a Nazi is like, dude, you're just calling anyone, if someone doesn't agree with you, literally a Nazi? Come on. Right wing, sure. Nazi, let's take it easy, dude. He's not a Nazi. Now, let's talk about this last little bit. And hopefully I can get this done in 10 minutes. But basically, the last thing I want to talk about is his communist propaganda. Peterson has, and I know I sound like I'm doing a conspiracy theory, but it's because PD Pops does sound a little bit like a conspiracy theorist, because what he's done is he's created kind of a bad guy, you know, and people say this when you're trying to start a movement. You can't just have the positive side of the movement. You have to have a bad guy, you know, and maybe that's a little bit of even what I'm doing, I guess. I just thought that I don't know, whatever. But even when Peterson came out, I was showing my roommate this, and my roommate is like, this guy's starting a cult. And he said this like last year, 2 years ago. My buddy's like, this guy's 100% starting a cult. Like, this is a men's rights kind of weird religious tied into it, capitalism. It's a cult, and then the enemy of the cult is almost what he would call a communist, feminist, maybe Muslim agenda, you know? And so it does sound like a little bit like a conspiracy theory, but that's kind of what he does believe in. He does believe that there is a leftist, communist, feminist agenda, and it's destroy. And the real problem in this world is that the capitalist hierarchy, it's being destroyed by the leftist, Leninist, communist agenda. It's creating an underlying decay in the beautiful natural hierarchy that the Lord has provided us through capitalism. And here's the problem with that. I mean, there's lots. You know, one is, it's a little hack, dude. I mean, you're doing hack McCarthy bits. Let's be real about that. You're doing some hack. Like, when he goes off into communism. Now, and here's the thing. And this is why I wanted to say, like, people are calling him a Nazi. I don't think he's a Nazi, but I can see why people call him a Nazi. Two reasons. One is he calls everyone a fucking communist. If you call everyone a communist just because they want healthcare or some shit, and I'm not saying that's exactly what Peterson calls people communists for, but basically, if you believe in feminism, if you believe in any kind of equality stuff, if you believe in any kind of social justice stuff, he kind of says, well, you're communism. And we all tried that, and the communists destroyed everything, and 100 million people died. And that is, let's be real, it's propaganda. I'm not a communist, but it's propaganda in the sense that this is part of like a 50 to maybe 80-year-old movement in America, funded by the military-industrial complex. Let's be real, let's get into it. Funded by the military-industrial complex, and there's footage of this, people. I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist, but there is footage of this where the American government is, I saw this great video where they're talking about all the bases they have around the world. All the bases they have, dude, they justified these bases that America has, that it's bankrupting America, that's keeping America in these perpetual wars all the time. The way that they started that and the way they funded it is the communists, they're coming, they're around the corner. That's how they sell it. So that's the thing with Petey Pops. You bring up communism, he'll literally fucking cry, dude. You're crying? As far as I'm concerned, you cry in a conversation, that's terrorism, goddammit. If you are telling a political opinion and then you start crying, that's terrorism. Because here's what you're doing as a grown person. What you're doing is you're saying, you're not a communist, are you? You're not going to disagree with me, are you? I might do something crazy. And it's basically like this. It's like I might start crying. It's like, dude, he's going to cry. Like his fucking voice is quivering, and he's going to cry while he's saying that communism is so awful. You're not going to disagree with. So if you're in a situation where you're having a political discussion and someone is going to cry, yeah, you just kind of go, okay, man, meet the demands. Yeah, no, communism's bad. Sorry. Communism's so terrible. Yeah, I guess these feminists are out of control. I don't know. Fuck it. Dude, don't cry, man. You're a grown man. You know, we're having a discussion. What, you got to cry about this right now? That's basic. It's terrorism. It's social terrorism, you know? If someone, and look, man, I'm not against crying, man. I like a good cry. You know what I'm saying? I love a good cry. If I'm watching a movie or something, sure. But in real life, who cries? Just having a political discussion? Who cries? Dude, don't cry. I mean, he's crying thinking about all the horrors of communism. Dude, you bring up Nazis, and he'll be like, yeah, that's bad too. But you bring up communism, and you go, oh no, that's bad. But then you bring up Nazis and he's like, that's bad. You know what I mean? It's like communism. It's like, that's bad. Crying, dude. But then you bring up Nazis and it's like, that's bad. I don't like that. We're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to do that. Stop it. Don't be Nazis. Don't. Stop it. It's kind of like that. You know what I'm saying? And that's a pretty big, that's almost like when you go too far right wing, you end up kind of being like, oh, look at them. They're so organized. They're so efficient. I think it would be so much easier. We could make so much progress if everyone was in line. It gets you a little hard. You might get a little hard. You might get a little chub. Thinking about those Nazis, dude. A lot of people do. A lot of right-wing people do. They get a little chub. They get a little chub. They get a little bit. And it's emotional. It's not, of course, when you consciously, logically think about it, of course, they're like, no, of course I would never be into that, but, it's like a bad boy. It's like a rock and roll bad boy, right? You know, have you met a girl who's just fucking... You know, sometimes people fall in love and it's like they don't even have a choice of who they fall in love with. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like a conspiracy in your own brain. There's almost like a board of directors in your brain that's like, we're in love with this person. And you're like, that guy's an idiot, racist, stupid. But your brain is like, well, we got a 6-month contract on that. You know? Oh, you went over for a booty call? 2-month extension. It's like canceling dude, sometimes breaking up, like sometimes trying to not be in love with someone is like canceling a cell phone contract. You're calling the cell phone company like, hey, can I cancel this? And the cell phone company's like, oh, no, you got 8 more months on that contract. And you're like, well, come on, man. Dude, that's what it is in your own brain, right? You can't control it. And that was such a tangent to go on, but all that just to say that Petey Pops, when you watch his stuff, communism, it's like it's like gross. It's like, But Nazism, you know, kind of like Candace Owens recently just said that, you know, they got some good stuff. Organized, efficient. You know, maybe we can learn something from that. It's like they kind of, half chub is what I'm saying. Half chub. I'm not calling him a Nazi, though. I really don't want it to come across like that. Like he's not. I'm not saying he is. But what I am saying is this anti-communist propaganda. Enough, man. First of all, it's so fucking hack. It's just old Joseph McCarthy bits. Get out of here, dude. You're just doing McCarthy bits. And these 20-year-olds never seen it, so they think you're so smart. Oh, dude, come on. We saw him do this. And then he fucking cried too in front of the Senate when they all busted him. But here's what I'm gonna stop it with this. Here's what worries me about communism. Okay, here's the problem with communism. Here's the problem with this anti-communist movement. This is why the Americans don't have health care. This is why the Americans have to go to Vietnam. This is what's going to destroy them. So while Peterson is trying to sell you this leftist feminist agenda is creating an underlying decay, okay, maybe then we'll end up in a communist gulag. Okay, maybe in 100 years. But dude, your right-wing shit, military-industrial complex, the no health care, that kills people right now. Putting everyone in jail, which I'm sure he's not for putting everyone in jail. But the point is that the anti-communist movement, and I'm not a communist. Let me just be clear. I'm not a commie. But this anti-communist movement in America has done more damage than these communists. We can all look at history and say they were never going to come. When are we just going to goddamn admit it and be like, okay, these commies, they weren't going to come. They were never going to come. Okay? Just get over it, man. I mean, what? Don't cry. Why are you crying? Like, some people, we should have healthcare. Like, they need healthcare. The Americans, they're too dumb, and we're Canadian, we're smart. We should be telling them, hey, it's doing great. Idiots. Love you, but you're being stupid about this. Stop. And the way that it's sold to people, the way this military-industrial complex, it's sold with the anti-communist shit. It's sold with the Western values have to dominate their Muslim Eastern values, Muslim communist Eastern values, and then it's sold with the anti-communist shit. It's too much, man. I'm not a communist. I'm really not. You know, and I'm seeing these commies come up in the game on YouTube, and I'm like, guys, relax. Non-compete. It's like, take it easy. Thought slime. They're good, man. They're good. But Jesus Christ, man. I feel like Mexi's really good. Mexi's like a left-wing YouTuber. She's good. Like, she's not so, like, she's, I don't know. The videos, she has a video called The Unpaid Work of, the unpaid labor of nature, animals, and women. And she makes some good points, man. This capitalist system is basically like, maybe I'm jumping around too much, and maybe we got to get into that in another episode. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that he has this hard pro-capitalist bent. He's got that hard boner for capitalism, and that's fine. But we have to be rational about some of the ideas, especially going into automation, and Andrew Yang's talking about this too. We're going into the future, people. There's not going to be any goddamn jobs. And already a huge percentage of our economy right now is just, okay, some senator or some congressperson or whatever, just in America, just being like, okay, I paid 1,000 people to dig holes, and I paid another 1,000 people to fill the holes. I created 2,000 jobs. Guys, you know, and that's the military, if you think about it. It's a bunch of people going over, getting PTSD. You spent the money destroying a place, then you got to pay another company to rebuild the place, and then you don't even want to pay for these guys who come back with PTSD. You don't even want to pay for their medical shit, and then it's all about job creation. Where's everyone going to work? Jobs. Dude, stop. And that is initially funded, and even still, I think, funded in large part due to this anti-communist kind of propaganda. You know what I'm saying, guys? I think I made my point on that. I guess the only other thing I want to talk about with PD Pops was, I mean, this guy kind of covered it on Sam Cedar show, but man, so of course on Fox News, have you guys ever seen this Fox morning show? These goofballs, these guys, so I guess somewhere in America, they're canceling a father-daughter dance. First of all, gross. Father-daughter dance? Can't the father-daughter dance just be fucking gross, dude? But no, it can't just be gross and we're just going to cancel the father-daughter dance. We're talking about teenage girls going to a dance with their dads. And all these right-wing losers are like, oh, this is going to destroy the culture if we cancel that. Is this the leftist agenda, destroying the culture and destroying traditional values? Is that the leftist agenda? So, of course, they bring on Peterson as their expert. Well, what a bunch of losers. Out of touch, man. You're out of touch, dudes. Calm down, okay? Maybe the father-daughter dance is just fucking creepy, but these guys all just get together and do like a discussion about what's wrong with the father-daughter dance. And I remember one girl was telling me she's religious, and she went to she was part of a crew that would do shit like that. Like she was in kind of like this religious cult, and she was saying that basically the father-daughter dance, like they broke it down for the whole point of the father-daughter dance is to be like, hey, you're gonna fall in love with someone who looks like me, daddy. Not some Muslim, not some lesbian, but I'm teaching you the correct way to be, and that is to fall in love with someone who looks like me. See this? Father, it's practice, it's training wheels. Gross. So gross. Also, totally gonna backfire, because I feel like a lot of girls are like, ew, and then they want to go fuck someone, you know what I mean? It's like reverse psychology. But anyway, we'll have to get into that in another episode. Wow, this is, I feel like there's a lot of bangers in here. I feel like we did great, my darlings. I feel like we did great. I ranted and I raved about something for an hour and 5. And I'm not even tired. I could just do this all day, people. I could do this all day. I can just have these little chit-chats with you guys. It is getting, it's, I think this is episode 8 right now. It's getting better. It's getting easier. It's getting more focused. But also sometimes I wonder if I'm nerding out too much and maybe this is for a niche market. And if it is, it is. You know what I'm saying? If you like what you're listening, if you're in this far though, you're obviously into what I'm talking about. So why don't you just go over to laughsarup.com, become an investor, not just with money, but also just, join the mailing list. Invest your time, share it with some friends. Invest your social capital, your social media capital by sharing it with your friends, telling people about it, commenting, do all that stuff. All the stuff, guys. So do all that. And remember, my name is Amish Patel, CEO of the Amish Patel Comedy Corporation. I love you, and God is great. God is great. Okay. Put your hands up. My darlings, thank you for consuming this social media content from the Amish Patel Comedy Corporation. My name is Amish Patel, CEO of the Amish Patel Comedy Corporation. And listen, if you're still watching this, you must really be in love with me. Or else what are you doing here? It's the internet. You could be watching anything. You could be watching anything. But you're here, you love it, so why don't you just go ahead and subscribe. Okay? Hit the bell button too, and then they'll let you know when I got more bits coming out. And I'll tell you this, I got bits. I'm sitting on bits, guys. So many bits. I'm overstocked on bits, and I am working hard to bring them to market for your consumption. So subscribe to the channel. Also, if you want to watch a bit right now, you can. There's a bit right. You can click on the box right below me. That's a bit. You can click on me. It'll take you to a secret bit, or you can go to laughsarup.com. You can listen to the full podcast where these bits are cut out of. You can join the mailing list. You can You'll be notified of live stand-up comedy shows coming to your area, and you can learn about all of the investment opportunities at the Amish Patel Comedy Corporation. To do that, go to laughsarup.com, or keep getting the bits, or subscribe to make sure you keep getting future bits. Or, you know what? Share the video then, too. If you're still here, I mean, what are you doing? You should be working for me at this point. I mean, at this point, you're an investor. Time is money. You spent your time. You're an investor. And if you look at our business model over here, you'll see at the top, social media bits. That's what we're watching right now. That's at the top. But if you follow it all the way to the bottom, do you see on that ground floor? It says fans and investors. That's you guys. You are at the ground floor of a very exciting business opportunity here at the Amish Patel Comedy Corporation. So, like I said, go to laughsarup.com, join the mailing list, listen to the full podcast. I think I said everything. That's all the stuff I got to say. Okay? Okay? God is great.